The Great Hall of the Galactic Council had never been so quiet. 300 species sat in their assigned seats, their bodies shaped by evolution on worlds scattered across 1,000 star systems. Some breathed oxygen, others breathed methane or pure nitrogen. A few did not breathe at all. But in this moment, every single one of them stared at the small holographic display floating in the center of the chamber. Counselor Yethrani stood beside the display. She was a tall being covered in soft, glowing tendrils that changed color with her emotions. Right now, those tendrils had gone pale white. This was the color of fear among her people. "I will read the report again," she said, her voice shaking slightly. "The biological survey of the species known as humans has been completed. Of the total biological material found in an average human body, only 0.2% matches known patterns in our database. The remaining 99.8% is unidentified." A sound like wind through dead trees moved through the chamber. It was the collected gasp of beings who had thought they understood everything about life in the galaxy. High Arbiter Kossesvel raised one crystalline arm. He was the oldest member of the council, a being made of living crystal that had seen empires rise and fall over 2 million years. "Counselor Yethrani, please explain what this means. Our database contains the genetic records of 4.7 million species. How can any biological material be unidentified?" Yethrani's tendrils flickered between white and a sickly yellow. "High Arbiter, we do not know. Our scientists have checked the results 17 times. They have used every analytical tool available to us. The results remain the same. Human biology does not match anything we have ever seen." In the visitor gallery above the main chamber, Ambassador Sarah Chen watched the proceedings with growing confusion. She was a small woman, with black hair turning gray at the temples. She had served Earth's diplomatic corps for 30 years, first in Asia, then in Europe, and finally here, at the edge of known space. She had thought this assignment would be the crowning achievement of her career. Now she was not so sure. Beside her, Dr. James Okonkwo leaned close. He was the head of Earth's xenobiology team, a Nigerian scientist who had spent his life dreaming of this moment. "Ambassador, do you understand what they are saying? They seem upset about our medical tests," Sarah whispered back. "More than upset. They seem terrified." Below them, the council had erupted into chaos. Beings were shouting in dozens of languages, their words translated into a cacophony of overlapping voices by the chamber's automatic systems. Sarah caught fragments of the arguments. "Must quarantine them immediately. Unknown biological threat. Never should have allowed first contact. Could be carrying anything." High Arbiter Kossesvel struck the floor with his staff, and the sound rang through the chamber like a bell. Slowly, the noise died down. "We will have order," he said. His voice was calm, but Sarah noticed that his crystalline body had gone dark. She had learned enough about his species to know this was a sign of deep disturbance. "Counselor Yethrani, what do your scientists recommend?" Yethrani consulted a datapad held in her secondary tendrils. "They recommend a full investigation. We need to understand what humans are made of before we can assess the risk they pose to the Galactic Compact." "The risk?" Sarah stood up before she could stop herself. Every eye, sensor, and perception organ in the chamber turned toward her. "Excuse me, but I must object. We came here in peace. We submitted to your medical examinations willingly. We have done nothing to threaten anyone." The silence that followed was worse than the shouting. Kossesvel's crystal form flickered with pale light. "Ambassador Chen, you misunderstand. We are not accusing humanity of hostile intent. We are simply concerned. In 3,000 years of cataloging species, we have never encountered biology we could not classify. Your people are the first. Is that really so frightening?" "Yes." The word came not from Kossesvel but from a being on the far side of the chamber. It was a Ithral, one of the ancient hive mind species that had helped found the Galactic Compact. When it spoke, 1,000 voices spoke together. "Ambassador Chen, the galaxy is a dangerous place. We have learned, over millions of years, that unknown biology is deadly biology. Plagues have wiped out entire civilizations. Parasites have consumed worlds. We survive because we understand what threatens us. And you, we do not understand you at all." Sarah felt Dr. Okonkwo's hand on her arm, steadying her. She took a deep breath. "Then, let us help you understand. We have nothing to hide. Ask us any question. Perform any test. We want to be part of your community, and we know that trust must be earned." Cosful considered this for a long moment. His crystal body began to glow again, softly, like dawn breaking over a frozen landscape. "Very well. We will dispatch a scientific delegation to your quarters. They will conduct a thorough investigation. Until their report is complete, humanity's application for provisional membership in the Galactic Compact is suspended." Sarah nodded. It was not the outcome she had hoped for, but it was better than some alternatives. "We accept these terms." As she turned to leave the gallery, she heard the whispers starting again. This time, she caught a word that made her blood run cold. "Monsters," someone said. "They must be monsters." Dr. Okonkwo heard it too. His face was troubled as they walked back toward the human delegation's quarters. "Ambassador, what do you think they will find?" Sarah shook her head. "I have no idea, James. But whatever it is, I hope it does not give them more reasons to fear us." She did not know, could not have known, that the answers waiting to be discovered would shake the foundations of galactic civilization. She did not know that the 99.8% of human biology that the Council could not identify would turn out to be the most frightening thing they had ever encountered. And she certainly did not know that, in the end, fear would not be the only response humanity inspired. But that was all still to come. For now, she walked through the gleaming corridors of Station Axis 7, a single human surrounded by the weight of galactic suspicion, and wondered what secrets her own body might hold. The scientific delegation arrived at the human quarters 3 hours after the council session ended. There were 5 of them, each from a different species, each an expert in their field. They moved through the corridors like surgeons approaching a patient they expected to die on the table. Lead researcher Threlix walked at the front of the group. He was a tall being who looked something like a praying mantis made entirely of living metal. His 6 limbs clicked against the floor as he moved, and his compound eyes reflected everything in fractured pieces. He had studied alien biology for 400 years. He had examined creatures from the deepest ocean trenches of water worlds and the burning skies of gas giants. He had never been afraid of a research subject before. He was afraid now. Ambassador Chen met them at the entrance to the human section. She smiled at them, showing her teeth, and Threlix had to remind himself that this was a greeting among humans, and not a threat display. Several of his colleagues were not so sure. The Vorathian researcher, a being made of interconnected bubbles of colored gas, retreated several steps. "Please come in," Ambassador Chen said. "We have prepared a conference room for your investigation. Dr. Okonkwo will answer any questions about human biology." Threlix followed her inside. The human quarters were surprisingly warm and humid, conditions that most galactic species found uncomfortable. The air smelled strange, full of organic compounds that his sensors could not immediately identify. He made a note to analyze them later. The conference room was simple: a table, some chairs, and a large display screen. Dr. Okonkwo was already waiting for them. He was a tall human with dark skin and kind eyes behind thin pieces of glass that Threlix learned were called spectacles. He seemed completely calm, as if being investigated by terrified aliens was a normal part of his day. "Thank you for coming," Dr. Okonkwo said. "Where would you like to begin?" Threlix consulted his datapad. "We would like to understand the nature of the unidentified biological material in human bodies. Our scans detected trillions of microscopic organisms living inside you. Can you explain this?" Dr. Okonkwo nodded. "Of course. You are referring to our microbiome. The human body contains approximately 39 trillion microorganisms, including bacteria, viruses, fungi, and other small life forms. They live on our skin, in our digestive systems, and in various other parts of our bodies." The Chilaxi researcher, a being that resembled a walking tree with eyes, made a sound of distress. "You are aware of this infestation?" "It is not an infestation," Dr. Okonkwo said gently. "These organisms are our partners. They help us digest food, fight off harmful bacteria, regulate our immune systems, and perform many other functions. We could not survive without them." Threlix felt his metal plates grinding against each other, a sign of extreme stress. "You are telling us that you deliberately host other life forms inside your bodies." "We do not do it deliberately. It happened naturally, over billions of years of evolution. We grew up together, you might say." The Euthrol observer, A small fragment of the great hive mind spoke with its chorus of tiny voices. This is not possible. No species in our records has developed this kind of relationship. A body is a single organism, one genetic line, one evolutionary purpose. What you describe is chaos. Dr. Okonkwo smiled. It was a warm expression, but Threlix found it deeply unsettling. I understand why it might seem that way, but chaos can become cooperation, given enough time. Let me show you something. He activated the display screen. An image appeared showing a human cell in great detail. Do you see these small structures inside the cell? They are called mitochondria. They produce the energy that powers every cell in our bodies. We detected these, Threlix said. Their genetic structure did not match the rest of human DNA. We could not explain it. That is because mitochondria are not originally human. Billions of years ago, they were separate organisms, free-living bacteria. At some point, our ancient ancestors absorbed them, and instead of destroying each other, they formed a partnership. The bacteria gained protection and resources. Our ancestors gained a powerful energy source. Over time, they became inseparable. The room was silent. Threlix could hear the soft hum of the station's life support systems, the quiet breathing of the humans, and the rapid clicking of his own stressed metal plates. You are saying, he said slowly, that humans are not a single species. You are a combination of multiple species that learned to work together. That is one way to look at it, yes. And this, cooperation, it was not designed. It was not engineered. It simply happened. Evolution found a solution that worked. It often does. The Varathian researcher had recovered enough to float closer. But there must be conflict. These organisms must compete for resources. How do you prevent them from harming you? Dr. Okonkwo thought about this for a moment. There is competition, yes. But there is also balance. Our immune system monitors everything inside us. It recognizes which organisms are helpful and which are harmful. The helpful ones are allowed to stay. The harmful ones are destroyed. And if a harmful organism is too strong, if it cannot be destroyed, something changed in Dr. Okonkwo's expression. The warmth was still there, but underneath it was something harder, something that had been forged in fire and blood in millions of years of survival. Then we find a way to destroy it anyway, he said. That is what humans do. We do not give up. We do not accept defeat. If something threatens us, we study it until we understand it, and then we defeat it. Our ancestors did this with predators. They did this with the environment. They did this with disease. And they passed this determination down to us, written into our very genes. Threlix looked at the human standing before him. He saw a soft body, fragile compared to his own metal form. He saw no claws, no armor, no natural weapons of any kind. But he also saw 39 trillion microscopic allies living in perfect cooperation with their host. He saw cells powered by captured bacteria that had been integrated so completely they were now inseparable from human life. He saw an immune system that had been fighting and winning wars against invisible enemies for billions of years. And for the first time, he began to understand why the council was so afraid. I will need to examine your medical records, he said, his voice much quieter than before. I want to understand how you fight disease. Dr. Okonkwo nodded. I would be happy to share everything we know. But I warn you, lead researcher, the history of human medicine is not for the faint of heart. We have done terrible things in our quest to survive. We have also done wonderful things. Both are part of who we are. Threlix met the human's eyes. I am a scientist. I seek truth, whatever form it takes. Then let me tell you about vaccines, doctor. Okonkwo said. Let me tell you about antibiotics. Let me tell you about the diseases that tried to destroy us, and how we learned to destroy them instead. And as the station's lights dimmed into the cycle they called night, Threlix listened. What he heard would change everything he thought he knew about survival, about cooperation, and about the terrifying potential of the small, soft species called humanity. The emergency session was called at dawn. Every species in the Galactic Compact sent representatives. The Great Hall, designed to hold 300 beings, now contained more than 800. They stood in the aisles. They floated near the ceiling. They crowded around viewing screens in adjacent chambers. No one wanted to miss what was about to be revealed. Lead researcher Threlix stood in the center of the chamber. He had not slept in 3 days. His metal body, normally polished to a bright shine, had gone dull with stress and exhaustion, but his voice was steady as he addressed the assembled species. "I have completed my initial investigation into human biology," he began. "What I have discovered will be difficult to hear. I ask that you remain calm and listen to everything before making judgments." High Arbiter Cosvel nodded. "Proceed." Threlix activated the holographic display. A rotating image of a human body appeared, surrounded by data streams in dozens of languages. Humans evolved on a planet called Earth. It is a small world, mostly covered in water, with a single moon and a yellow sun. By galactic standards, it is unremarkable. He paused, and his compound eyes swept across the chamber. But Earth has one quality that makes it unique among all planets we have studied. It is extraordinarily violent. The display changed to show Earth's history. Images of asteroid impacts, volcanic eruptions, ice ages, and other disasters flickered past. In the 4 billion years since life first appeared on Earth, the planet has experienced at least 5 mass extinction events. Each one killed between 70 and 96% of all living species. The most recent one, 66 million years ago, destroyed the dominant life forms of that era. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Threlix raised a metal limb for silence. Most life forms would not survive such conditions. But Earth life did not merely survive. It learned. It adapted. It became something unlike anything else in the galaxy. The display zoomed in on human cells. Consider the human immune system. It is not a simple defense mechanism. It is a library, a database of every threat humanity has ever faced. Every disease, every parasite, every invading organism. All of them are recorded, remembered, and prepared for. A Chilaxi delegate raised a branch-like arm. Many species have immune systems. This is not unusual. True, Threlix agreed. But human immune systems do something that no other species can match. They share information. The chamber went quiet. When a human survives a disease, their body creates antibodies. These are specialized proteins designed to recognize and destroy that specific threat. This is common among species with immune systems, but humans discovered a way to share these antibodies between individuals. They call it vaccination. The display showed images of human medical facilities. A human scientist takes a disease, a deadly disease that has killed millions of their kind. They weaken it until it cannot harm, but can still be recognized. Then they inject this weakened disease into healthy humans. Several delegates made sounds of horror. The Vorathian researcher, who had been part of the investigation, explained further. They teach their immune systems to recognize the threat before they ever encounter it. They prepare for wars they have not yet fought. Threlix nodded. Using this technique, humans have eliminated diseases that once killed 1 in 3 of their children. They have wiped out plagues that destroyed entire civilizations. They have turned certain death into minor inconvenience. High Arbiter Cosvel's crystal form flickered with complex patterns of light. You speak of these achievements as if they were normal. Are they not? Oh, High Arbiter, no other species in the Galactic Compact has developed vaccination technology. When your species encounter new diseases, you quarantine the infected and hope for natural recovery. Humans hunt diseases. They capture them, study them, and create weapons specifically designed to destroy them. The Uthral Collective spoke, its 1,000 voices harmonizing in a tone of deep concern. Lead researcher, you said this was difficult to hear. So far, you have only described impressive medical technology. What are you not telling us? Threlix was silent for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was very soft. The human body contains approximately 39 trillion microorganisms. Many of these are beneficial, as Dr. Okonkwo explained, but some of them are not. Some of them are remnants of ancient wars, bacteria and viruses that once killed humans by the millions but have been reduced to harmless passengers. He turned to face the Uthral delegation directly. These organisms still exist. They still live in human bodies. And they still carry the genetic memory of what they once were. Understanding began to dawn in the chamber. Beings shifted nervously. Some began moving toward the exits. When humans interact with other species, they share these organisms. A handshake, a shared meal, breathing the same air. Every contact is an exchange of biological material. For humans, this is harmless. Their immune systems control these organisms completely. He paused. But your species have never encountered these organisms. You have no immunity, no defenses, no antibodies prepared for war. The Chalaxi delegate spoke, its voice trembling. You are saying that humans are carriers, that they could infect us with diseases we cannot fight. I am saying that humans do not even know they are dangerous. To them, these organisms are normal. Background noise. They do not realize that what is harmless to them could be deadly to us. Chaos erupted. Beings shouted in dozens of languages. Some called for immediate quarantine of all humans. Others demanded that humanity be expelled from galactic space entirely. A few, mostly military species, suggested more permanent solutions. Through it all, Threlix stood motionless in the center of the chamber. He had one more piece of information to share, but he was not sure the council was ready to hear it. High Arbiter Kossesvel struck the floor with his staff, demanding silence. Lead researcher, you have painted a terrifying picture. Is there anything else we should know? Threlix hesitated. Then he activated the final section of his display. There is one more thing. I asked the humans what they do when they encounter a disease that their techniques cannot defeat. A pathogen so dangerous, so adaptable, that vaccination and medicine fail. The chamber held its breath. They told me they accept losses. Some of their people die. This is unavoidable. But the survivors pass on their immunity to their children. Generation by generation, the species grows stronger, the disease grows weaker. Eventually, humanity wins. He turned off the display. They do not surrender. They do not hide. They do not accept extinction. They simply refuse to lose. And they have been doing this for 4 billion years. In the stunned silence that followed, a small voice spoke up. It was Ambassador Chen, watching from the visitor gallery. Lead researcher Threlix, may I ask a question? Every being in the chamber turned to look at her. You have spent 3 days studying us. You have learned things about humanity that even we do not often think about. After everything you have discovered, what is your recommendation to the council? Threlix looked up at the small human woman. She seemed so fragile, so harmless, but he knew now what lay beneath that soft exterior. Ambassador Chen, he said, I do not know. I truly do not know. But I believe the council needs to hear from you directly. They need to understand what humanity intends to do with all this terrible potential. Sarah Chen nodded slowly. Then let me speak to them. Let me tell them who we really are. The council chamber had emptied of most delegates. What remained was the High Council, the ruling body that made the most important decisions for the Galactic Compact. 12 beings sat in a circle around the central platform, representing the 12 founding species. Their ancestors had created the Compact 600,000 years ago, and their descendants had guided it ever since. Ambassador Chen stood before them alone. Dr. Okonkwo had offered to accompany her, but she had refused. This was a conversation between leaders, and she needed to speak for humanity without distraction. High Arbiter Kossesvel addressed her first. Ambassador Chen, you have heard the findings of our investigation. You understand why we are concerned. I do. Then help us understand your intentions. What does humanity want from the Galactic Compact? And more importantly, what do you intend to do with the biological capabilities you possess? Sarah took a deep breath. She had prepared for many questions during her diplomatic career, but never one quite like this. How do you explain 4 billion years of evolution to beings who had never known true hardship? High Arbiter, I want to tell you a story. It is a true story from human history, and I think it will help you understand who we are. Kossesvel gestured for her to continue. 300 years ago, a disease called smallpox was killing millions of humans every year. It caused terrible suffering. Those who survived were often left blind or badly scarred. For thousands of years, we had no defense against it. She paused, remembering the images she had seen in history books. The faces of children covered in pustules, the mass graves, the fear that had gripped entire nations. Then a human named Edward Jenner noticed something strange. Milkmaids, women who worked with cows, rarely caught smallpox. He investigated and discovered that they were exposed to a similar but much milder disease called cowpox. This exposure protected them from the deadly version. The Uthral representative leaned forward. He discovered natural immunity. More than that, he found a way to give that immunity to others. He took material from a cowpox sore and introduced it into a healthy person. It made them sick for a few days, but afterward, they were protected from smallpox forever. Sarah let that sink in. The other humans thought he was mad. They were terrified of what he was doing. Some called him a monster for deliberately infecting people with disease. But Jenner continued his work, and slowly, others began to understand. Within 100 years, smallpox was becoming rare. And in 1980, the World Health Organization declared that smallpox had been completely eliminated from Earth. She met Cosville's glowing eyes. We did not just survive that disease. We destroyed it utterly. It exists now only in 2 laboratories, kept under the heaviest security imaginable, studied so that we can prepare for anything similar that might appear. The Chalaxi representative spoke, its voice like wind through leaves. You speak of this with pride, but to us, it sounds terrifying. You wage war against life itself. No, Sarah said firmly. We wage war against death, against suffering, against the cruel randomness of nature that kills children in their beds and leaves parents weeping over tiny graves. We fight because we refuse to accept that things must be the way they are. She stepped closer to the circle of council members. You asked what humanity wants from the Galactic Compact. The answer is simple. We want to help. We want to share what we have learned. We want to use our 4 billion years of survival experience to make life better for everyone. The military representative, a heavily armored being called Ventar, made a sound of disbelief. You expect us to believe that your species, with all its terrible potential, wants only to help. What do you gain from this? Friends? Sarah said simply. Allies. Partners. We have been alone on our little world for so long, fighting battles that no one else even knew were happening. Now we have found others. We have found you. And we do not want to be alone anymore. Silence filled the chamber. Sarah could feel the weight of their skepticism, their fear, their uncertainty. She understood it. She would feel the same way in their position. Let me ask you something, she said. In all the time your species have been part of the Galactic Compact, how many plagues have swept through your populations? How many millions have died from diseases that jumped between species? How many worlds have been quarantined and left to suffer alone? The council members exchanged glances. The Uthral representative answered, Many, too many to count. Biological contamination is one of the greatest dangers of interspecies contact. And what have you done about it? More silence. This silence had a different quality. It was the silence of beings confronting an uncomfortable truth. You have done nothing, Sarah said, not unkindly. You have accepted it as the price of civilization. When disease strikes, you isolate the victims and hope for the best. You have never fought back. You have never even tried. She spread her hands. We can teach you. We can share our vaccines, our medicines, our techniques for fighting disease. We can help you build the same defenses that have protected humanity for generations. Not because we want power over you, not because we want payment, simply because we cannot stand to watch others suffer when we know how to help. Ventar leaned forward. And if we refuse? If we decide that the risk of contact with humanity is too great? Sarah met the warrior's gaze steadily. Then we will leave. We will go back to Earth and continue as we always have. Alone. Fighting our battles without allies. Surviving because that is what we do. She paused. But I hope you will not refuse. Because the galaxy is a dangerous place, as you said. And it would be much safer for everyone if humanity was fighting on your side. High Arbiter Cosville stood, his crystalline body blazing with light. You make a compelling argument, Ambassador. But words are easy. Actions are harder. If humanity truly wants to help, you must prove it. How? Our scientists have identified 17 microorganisms in human bodies that could pose threats to other species. Create countermeasures for these organisms. Share them freely with the Compact. Demonstrate that your intentions are as noble as you claim. Sarah nodded without hesitation. We will begin immediately. Dr. Okonkwo and his team are already working on analysis. We should have preliminary vaccines ready within 30 of your standard days. Murmurs of surprise rippled through the council. The Chalaxi representative spoke again. So quickly? Our own medical research takes decades to produce results. We have had practice, Sarah said, and we are very, very motivated. Cassavell raised his staff. Then let it be so. Humanity will remain under observation while they complete this task. If they succeed, we will reconsider their application for membership. If they fail, or if they prove to be the threat some fear they are, we will take appropriate action. Sarah bowed her head respectfully. Thank you, High Arbiter. We will not disappoint you. As she turned to leave, Cassavell spoke one more time. Ambassador Chen, one question remains. Lead researcher Threlix described humans as beings who refuse to lose, who fight against extinction itself. What happens when you encounter a problem you cannot solve, when you face an enemy you cannot defeat? Sarah stopped at the chamber entrance. She turned back to face the ancient crystal being, and for a moment, something fierce burned in her eyes. High Arbiter, in 4 billion years that has never happened, and we do not intend to let it start now. She walked out into the corridor, leaving the High Council to contemplate what kind of species they had invited into their galaxy. 28 days later, Ambassador Chen stood once again before the High Council, but this time, she was not alone. Behind her stood Dr. Okonkwo and a team of 12 human scientists, each carrying cases filled with small vials. The chamber was even more crowded than before. Word had spread through the Galactic Compact about what humanity was attempting. Species from every corner of known space had sent observers. Some came hoping to see the humans fail. Others came hoping for a miracle. All of them wanted to witness history. High Arbiter Cassavell called the session to order. Ambassador Chen, you requested this meeting to present your results. The floor is yours. Sarah stepped forward. She had not slept more than a few hours in the past week, and it showed in the shadows under her eyes. But her voice was strong and clear. 28 days ago, the High Council challenged humanity to prove our intentions. You identified 17 microorganisms in human bodies that could threaten other species. You asked us to create countermeasures. Today, we deliver on that promise. She gestured to Dr. Okonkwo, who opened one of the cases. Inside, rows of small vials glowed with soft blue light. These are vaccines, Sarah explained. 17 different formulations, one for each identified threat. Each vaccine has been tailored to work with the immune systems of the most vulnerable species in the compact. We have also prepared broad-spectrum versions that can be adapted for any species with a biological immune response. Murmurs swept through the chamber. The Chilaxi representative raised a branch-like appendage. This is not possible. Our own medical researchers said such vaccines would take years to develop. Decades, perhaps. Dr. Okonkwo stepped forward to answer. Under normal circumstances, you would be correct. But humanity has developed techniques that speed up the process considerably. We call it rapid vaccine development. It is how we responded to sudden disease outbreaks on Earth. He activated a holographic display showing the research process. We sequenced the genetic material of each organism within the first 3 days. We identified their key proteins and vulnerabilities within a week. We designed and tested vaccine candidates in computer simulations before moving to biological testing. By day 14, we had working prototypes. The Euthral Collective spoke, its 1,000 voices filled with something that might have been awe. You accomplished in 28 days what would take us a generation. How is this possible? Practice, Sarah said simply. And necessity. When you live on a planet where new diseases can appear at any moment, you learn to work fast. Our ancestors died by the millions learning these lessons. We honor their sacrifice by using what they taught us. High Arbiter Cassavell descended from his seat and approached the case of vaccines. His crystalline body pulsed with patterns of light that Sarah had learned to recognize as deep thought. These vaccines, you are giving them freely? Without conditions? Without payment? Completely free, Sarah confirmed. We are also providing all of our research data, our manufacturing techniques, and our training materials. Any species that wants to produce these vaccines themselves will have everything they need. Cassavell was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice carried a weight that silenced every other being in the chamber. In 600,000 years of the Galactic Compact, no species has ever given away medical technology without demanding something in return. Knowledge is power. You are offering us power over diseases that could devastate our populations. And you ask for nothing. Sarah smiled. It was a tired smile, but genuine. We ask for nothing except the chance to be your friends. And perhaps, someday, the opportunity to work together on bigger problems. Bigger problems? The galaxy is vast, High Arbiter. There are diseases out there that even we have never encountered. Threats that no single species can face alone. But together, sharing knowledge and resources, pooling our different strengths, we might be able to protect everyone. She looked around the chamber at the hundreds of beings watching her. That is the future we want. Not dominance, not control, partnership. A galaxy where no species has to fight alone, where the knowledge of billions of years of evolution is shared freely to protect all life. The chamber erupted into discussion. Delegates argued in dozens of languages. Some praised humanity's generosity. Others warned that it must be a trick, a way to gain trust before revealing darker intentions. A few simply sat in stunned silence, trying to process what they had witnessed. Through it all, Sarah stood calm and patient. She had done everything she could. The rest was up to them. Finally, Cosville raised his staff for silence. The chamber fell quiet. The High Council will now vote on humanity's application for provisional membership in the Galactic Compact. In light of recent events, we will also vote on a secondary proposal to designate humanity as the Compact's first biological response species, with authority to assist in medical emergencies throughout galactic space. Sarah felt her heart skip. This was more than she had dared hope for. The voting took only moments. Holographic indicators lit up around the chamber as each species registered their choice. When the count was complete, Cosville read the results. By a vote of 793 to 47, with 12 abstentions, humanity is hereby granted provisional membership in the Galactic Compact. Cheers erupted from the human delegation. Sarah felt tears forming in her eyes but held them back. Furthermore, Cosville continued, by a vote of 802 to 36, with 14 abstentions, humanity is designated as the Compact's first biological response species. You will have full access to all medical research facilities. You will be called upon in times of biological crisis, and you will be expected to continue sharing your knowledge freely with all member species. Sarah bowed deeply. We accept this responsibility with gratitude and humility. We will not fail you. Cosville approached her, his crystalline form radiating warmth. Ambassador Chen, when your species first arrived, we were terrified. We looked at your bodies and saw chaos. We looked at your history and saw violence. We did not understand you. He reached out with one gleaming appendage and touched her shoulder gently. Now we begin to understand. The chaos was cooperation. The violence was survival. And the 99.8% we could not identify was 4 billion years of learning how to keep things alive. Sarah placed her hand over his. We are not perfect, High Arbiter. We have made terrible mistakes. We have hurt each other and our world in ways that shame us. But we have also learned from those mistakes. And we are still learning. As are we all, Cosville said. Perhaps that is what it means to be alive. To keep learning. To keep growing. To refuse to stop. No matter how hard the journey becomes. He stepped back and addressed the entire chamber. Let this day be remembered. Let it be recorded in the histories of every species. On this day, the Galactic Compact welcomed humanity, not as a threat to be feared, but as a partner to be valued. May our friendship endure for millions of years to come. As applause filled the chamber, Ambassador Sarah Chen stood surrounded by the representatives of 1,000 worlds. She thought about the long road that had brought humanity to this moment, the countless generations who had lived and died and fought and loved and never given up. She thought about the 39 trillion microorganisms in her body, ancient allies in an endless war against extinction. She thought about the mitochondria in her cells, captured bacteria that had become inseparable partners over billions of years. And she smiled, because she knew that this was just the beginning. Humanity had spent 4 billion years learning to survive. Now they would spend the next 4 billion learning to help others do the same. The galaxy would never be the same. And that, Sarah Chen thought, was exactly as it should be. Far away, on a small blue planet orbiting a yellow sun, billions of humans went about their daily lives. They ate breakfast, they went to work, they laughed with friends and argued with family and dreamed of futures they could barely imagine. They did not know that their bodies contained the secrets of survival. They did not know that their immune systems were libraries of ancient wisdom. They did not know that they had just become the galaxy's first line of defense against biological threats. But deep in their cells, in the microscopic world where the real battles were fought, 39 trillion tiny allies knew, and they kept working, as they always had, keeping their hosts alive, one day at a time. Some things, after all, never change, even when everything else does.